back again with the Social Democrats. Now, for those who don't know, these are the worst people in Irish politics. Apart from the Social Democrats, I mean, who is it? Sinn Féin, Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael. They're all part of this sort of Marxist woke left that is hopefully going to get voted out in the near future. But we have Gary Gannon today, lads. All right. Now, this is from Real News Era. Shout out to Real News Era. All right, he's a legend. Era. Remember when Conor McGregor used to fight people? He used to be like, Era. That was sick. I think it was versus Jose Aldo. I think he was doing that. But yeah, Gary Gannon is part of Social Democrats, and he is one of the worst people in the whole country. I actually, no lie, I can't understand half the shit that he actually says. And it's not that he has a thick Irish accent, because I understand Irish accents quite clearly. I've lived in the whole country my whole life. But, like, your man's accent is just, it's impossible to understand. So we're going to try and actually, hear what the hell he's trying to say here. This one is talking about immigration, re-immigration, about kids, I think, being, re-immigrated with their parents, which is good, guys. If your dad breaks the law in another country and he's only on a visa, or he's only on some sort of temporary sort of, visa, then the whole family should leave. That should be the threat. That if your dad breaks the rules, or your mum, then all the kids have to go back home as well. I mean, that has to be part of the legislation as well, in my personal opinion. Okay, it has to be a harsh threat, guys. And we see now as well, there's loads of flights, like every second day or every week we see a flight, 35 people being flown back to Georgia, 35 people being flown back to Albania, Eastern Europe, because these are gypsy people that aren't contributing to society whatsoever. Matter of fact, I think they're breaking the law a lot of the time. So it's good to see people are actually being deported. Okay, because you can't have criminals here, guys. Straight up, we have enough flipping lunatics in this country. All right, so let's hear what he says.
Any parent, any person of conscience could accept that this is how we would treat children within this state. You have to have an effective system of migration. I accept that deportations may play a role in that. I do not accept for a second that children should feel the consequences for what has been a state failure for a broken migration system. What happened in that school this week was devastating. Those children in that school, in similar situations, have been here for 3 and 4 years. They've been in our school systems, they've been learning their language, they've been playing for the GAA teams. Consequences that are felt there, and not only for those who are on the deportation flight, it's for the other 20 odd children who are in the class. It's for the families. That is an immensely painful situation. If the system is taking too long, that is a failure of the state, not a failure of those parents who have the right to pursue an asylum.
So are you suggesting then that if you have been here for a period of time, let's say it's 2 years, because the system has taken that long to make a decision on your case, you then should be allowed to stay even though you haven't been granted asylum?
Surely we should take compassion into consideration here and recognise that a child who's been in a system for that long shouldn't be punished for state failure. They shouldn't be the ones who have to be the victims for a state looking to look tough.
Like the minister has said, when he signs off on those orders, he doesn't know the specifics of the people who are involved.
Yeah, well, that's a failure of curiosity on the minister's part. We have a minister with responsibility for children. We're all signed up to obligations in terms of how we protect children in this state. Talk about being trauma-informed in their classroom. If he doesn't know, he's purposely chosen not to pursue it. Can you imagine if that was any of our children in a classroom in which their friend is being taken away overnight? How do we explain that?
So, yeah, right off the bat, guys, absolutely horrendous. Gary Gannon, again, too compassionate, too feminine in my opinion. When you're in charge of the country, or if you're in really heavy leadership positions, there's a reason why no compassion can be used, especially in the justice system, guys. Because let's say you hurt somebody, okay, or somebody hurt somebody and they kill a family member or whatever. If the person that killed your family member started crying in the courtroom, or no, please don't take me away from my kids, you have to sentence that guy to life in prison or whatever the mandatory sentence is, because they made their decision, guys. They made the decision to go and hurt your family member or illegally stay in the country. And I understand, guys, I'm a compassionate guy myself. I'm not a heartless bastard. I think these politicians, Leo Varadkar, Roger O'Gorman, all these guys, Micheál Martin, Simon Harris, these guys are the heartless bastards, okay? Because they don't understand. When they lie to people en masse, oh yeah, come to Ireland, it's a great country, we have jobs, we have wealth, and in reality we don't have shit in this country. There's not even housing for these people. There's not even, they don't even speak English. Nobody's going to employ these people. So they're lying to the people en masse just to get money from the EU and the UN. So it's like a Ponzi scheme. It's like one of those multi-level marketing scams that they're running in the Irish government, basically, to bring in people. And when you don't have a proper re-immigration and, deportation scheme, which includes the family, because you can't separate the kids from the parents, you know, that's the fault of the adults, guys. That's the fault of the dad and the mom. Okay, because they made their decision. If they're gonna come here illegally or whatever, guys, you know, without any documents or whatever, they have a background of a criminal past or whatever, and then they get deported, that's on them, guys. That is on the man and the woman. You know, hey, if any of those kids are watching, blame your parents. You know, I would just say that, guys. Blame your parents. The state is not at fault. The state has to deal with all these people coming in and out. Nobody knows what's going on. Nobody is coming here with a resident immigration visa or anything like that. So the country itself suffers, guys. All right, we're losing jobs. Okay, if we just let everybody stay that should be deported, then that hurts the Irish citizens. Okay, we need more masculine people. And what I mean by masculine is not getting jacked and getting a bunch of tattoos and walking around with a flipping cowboy hat on and flipping, a flipping biker costume and driving a bike. I'm not talking about that kind of shit, guys, right? I'm talking about masculinity in a sense of like, your brain strength, your flipping mental strength, okay, your mental health. A lot of these guys are very feminine, they grew up, whatever, very feminine households, maybe just their mom raised them. I don't know what happened, okay, guys. There was no masculine role model, whatever the case may be. They obviously are too, scared to just tell the public, hey, if your dad and mom make the wrong decision, you are going to suffer the consequences as well. They have to be scared. Criminals have to be scared, guys, of these consequences. Now, I'm not saying that everyone that comes here that's a flipping asylum seeker is a criminal. Absolutely not, guys. That's statistically not the case, okay? If you look at statistics, it's not the case. But at the same time, when you come here and it's illegal or whatever, or whatever, guys, God knows, the EU and UN are bringing in people, it's a shit show. You're actually taking from the Irish people. So although you may have them suffering because they just came from a war-torn country or whatever their background, they're being persecuted in their own country, it doesn't matter, because my own people matter before you as a person that's not from here. There has to be a sort of a line there that you cross. And it's not an arbitrary line. They have it written into law. If you're illegal, if you're this, if you're that, you don't get as many rights as an Irish citizen. Let's just take it from a passport standard. Like I have my 2 passports right here. I showed you guys loads of times on camera. If you have a passport, that obviously separates you from a guy that's, that doesn't have a passport. Even if you've lived here all the time, whatever, you're still not an Irish citizen, guys, which makes a big deal. That means you're not entitled to things from the state, you're not entitled to social welfare, you're not entitled to a free house, etc., etc. But now it's like, even without a passport, the government just give you money, give you this. It's just like, it's crazy. You should at least have citizenship, right? Which takes 5-6 years. It's a fucking joke, right, to get citizenship in this country, honestly. Anyone can get citizenship here. It's ridiculous. It's not like that in other countries. But at the same time, it's like, dude, we have to have a line in the sand where it's like, no, if you cross this line, you suffer the consequences of going to jail, deported, whatever. And it just has to be like that. And if we have feminine men like Gary Gannon telling everyone in Ireland, no, these people from overseas, they matter more than my own people. Like, what kind of shit is that? I feel sorry for those kids. I truly do. But those kids can blame their parents. Do not be blaming Ireland in any way. Do not blame Ireland. Blame the kids, blame your parents. The kids should blame their parents for making horrendous mistakes to break the law, and do whatever, God knows whatever in the state, guys. So that's my thoughts on that. I think Gary Gannon is ridiculous. No logic whatsoever. Shout out to AI as well. I follow AI. He's another ex-member. Just have some sympathy. Anyone is allowed to stay here if they come with children. I mean, that's basically the argument. Just because you have kids, lads, doesn't entitle you to, move somewhere else, even though your situation sucks. For a lot of Irish people, I don't own a home. A lot of Irish guys I know, all the lads I know, don't own any homes. We're 30 years old. Okay, we either rent or we stay at home or whatever the case may be. We rent a studio. I rent a studio. I rent different areas, but at the same time, guys, it's shit for Irish people. Okay, so if I was just to leave to flipping the US or Canada, yeah, of course I'll be mad if they deport me. But that's the flipping law, guys. The law is the law, and that's it. It's final. There's no flipping two ways about it. And these Marxist, extremist, communist, crazy lunatics on the liberal side, they want to distort reality. In real time, they'll make it so you're looking at something and they'll distort it. Okay, they'll make logic not real. They'll say a man is a woman is a man. They say all this crazy stuff, guys. It's just Marxist logic. It's used to erode your sort of confidence in yourself. You know, I'm sick of the demoralization. You know, I want to see people propped up in media. I want to see someone, you know, maybe that isn't 100%, you know, Irish ethnicity or something. You know, I want to see them, you know, propped up for what their achievements were. You know, but I want to see them promoting Irish culture. I don't want to see them promoting fucking some other culture, you know, some other bullshit culture. I want to see them promoting Ireland. You know, if they're from abroad and they moved here and they lived here their whole life, they should be promoting Ireland. You know, at least a little bit. Jesus Christ, I'm not asking for you to wave the Irish flag every time you go to some, you know, performance. Let's say you're a flipping, you know, runner or something. Like that runner, she promotes Ireland. Like you promote Ireland as a country. Okay, even if maybe you're not from here or whatever, you know, ethnic wise, you know, you should always be putting your own people first, at least a little bit. Jesus, I feel like people on the right don't ask for much. You know, they just ask for a little bit of respect of the legal system. Could you imagine? Imagine if you said that in a different country. They'd flip and throw you off the flipping bridge. Like, you know, in Ireland we're so good, we're able to flip and critique everything and say everything we like. It's great. You know, in these other countries in Asia and shit, they just throw you off the flipping bridge. Like, it's crazy. You know, that's if you want to critique their justice system or critique their government. It's like, you know, we can actually have a debate on it. But it seems, yeah, like Gary Gannon and the Social Democrats are too emotionally contrived. You know, he actually said there he agrees that deportations should be a thing, which is good to hear. But, you know, we don't keep kids, guys. That's separating the parents. You know, you got to have your parents as a kid. If it's a family of 4, everybody stays together and they just go back to Georgia or Albania or wherever. You know, plain and simple, guys. Let me know your thoughts. If I'm crazy, leave in the comments down below. I think that's pretty common sense. You know, most of the shit that I say is not socially unfair. I try and be as fair as possible. You know, people may not like that, but that's just how I think, guys. It's more like, you know, it's more under the rule of that the legal system has to take its place. You know, if people find that unfair, that's a bit ridiculous. But let me know your thoughts. Hit the join link underneath the video if you guys want me to help keep pushing back against the mainstream media. And I'll see you all in the next one, guys. Peace.